We are migrating a client from a 4D solution to a FileMaker solution. So in terms of getting their data into FileMaker, we have to do some sort of import. So when John gave me the files, they turned out to be pretty large. And I was finding that trying to write an import script for 60,000 records was taking too long, and I wanted to try to learn how to do it on the server. But I quickly discovered that you where we use a technique where we put a file in a container, you can't actually use export field contents using perform script on server. So the first part of the process is the user adds the text file to a container field. But when we get over to the server script, we have to use the create, open, write, and close file scripts. So if you've never used these before, the first thing I needed to do was figure out what the documents path is on the server. And I also passed the path information from what the file name information that I had already set up in the first script. So once I had that, just like most other things that you do for perform script on server, you have to be on the correct layout. And this was the layout that has the container field that we want to access. So the first step is using this create data file. And all you're doing is putting in the path of whatever you want to call. I'm going to call it a ghost file because it's basically a file that you're creating that doesn't exist. And then you want to use this script step called open data file from your path. And what you're capturing in either a field or a variable is actually an ID that this script step automatically creates. So in the next step, which is to write to the file, we have to reference the ID of the file that we created, point to the field that has and point to the field that has the information in it. And then we can close the data file. So now when we get to an import step, we can reference the path that all of this generated in order to import the records. So that's the first thing. I don't know if anybody's had to do that, but it was a little bit of a pickle to kind of figure out. There were some things that Joe helped me with, but essentially that's the issue, is that you can't do export field contents on the server.
What kind of errors might be captured at line 23? Is there anything that we should be testing for there?
Well, I did put in some error trapping here in case there was a problem with getting the information, or accessing that, if the import caused an error.
The only time there would be an error is if that file was locked by the OS. So if this script happens to run twice, and that file ID has not been committed, FileMaker will create a new data file with the same ID and could potentially lock the file. I'd say that's a pretty rare scenario, but it is something to be mindful of if you're doing exports into a data file on the server. Since we don't have any, user interface control over that scenario, you do have to trap for it or just be very sure that that data file isn't locked.
Maybe a bigger.
Well, my understanding is that the file is actually temporary. So like when you run this script again, if you had a file named the same name, it would just overwrite anything that was there. So I don't think that there's any kind of locking that happens. I guess maybe if you didn't close the data file, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's also worth putting some cleanup afterwards just to be extra sure. So if for some reason you don't want the file to end up there, theoretically the temp files will be removed. But if you thousands of these, they can populate and it can be of size really quickly. Would be to check after you're done with the process, check to see if the file exists. If it exists, delete it. That's the only thing I would add as well, is a cleanup afterwards.
Yeah, agreed.
Where's the file getting created? It's getting created at
Documents.
So that's not, there's no auto cleanup there, is there?
Oh, you're not going to your temp directory, you're going to the documents directory?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I was doing it to the temp directory, which does, I don't know when it gets purged, but yeah, if you're doing to the documents, then definitely. But I think the temp directory might be a better choice, but then doing cleanup afterwards just to ensure that it's not going to linger there, just because we've had problems with, swamping the temp directory with a bunch of files and then, them not getting deleted properly and so on and so forth.
John, I built in an option where you
Oh, you
can
did? Okay.
ask what you want. Are we deleting, updating, or appending to existing? So depending on what you choose, then it does 3 different imports. But if you don't ever need that, I can take all of that out.
No, it's fine. I don't think we will need it, but for testing purposes, it might come in handy.
So is that import variable like a flag of like what your action is in the script?
Right. If it's
Gotcha.
1, it's deleting all the existing records and doing a clean import. If it's 4, it's matching and adding the new ones, anything new. And then I think 5 is it's just matching but not importing the new ones. And then this is just to import all. So meaning that if there was any existing, it would just add everything. So these 2 do a match. This does an all but deletes all the records first, and this one just does an all.
Gotcha.
In the if sections where you're defining them, just add clarity by putting a comment on what the numbers mean. Otherwise, you have to go back and track in the previous script that calls it.
Would it be nice if AI in FileMaker could just automatically create script comments?
Well, I think.
Are you hinting at something? Is this coming?
I don't know.
That would be nice. I mean, if they would let us copy and paste script steps easily, then we could do that. We could throw it into an AI and tell it to document or comment it better. In different circumstances, if one wanted to, you could walk through the data file and pull records in instead of using the import records script step. I've done that in different situations, not so much with the file commands in FileMaker, but I've done it a lot in 4D where you want to migrate data more conditionally, and so I've written scripts or code that reads the data in from the file in a more controlled way and loops through it and creates records and modifies data on the fly as you're looping through the records. Not that this situation calls for that, but it is a way that you can definitely use those script steps that let you manipulate data files.
Yeah, it makes it so we don't have to rely on the plugins anymore for attachments on server script emails.
Yeah.
So I was able to that was a major replacement for NVL. Plus, we can do multiple attachments and control it from a FileMaker standpoint a lot better, not having to use a plugin. So that was a big improvement.